Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another video. So in this video we are going to be redesigning the 1000 gallon Moray Eel tank yet again. So in the last video I showed you how I set up some fake coral in this tank, but unfortunately it didn't work out, and I will cover why. And in this video I'm going to be going for a different look, for like a mangrove beach kind of look with some wood. Actually, I think that will look really nice. And I will also show you a couple of new fish that I added to the tank to make this whole setup complete. Okay, so I'm standing in front of the 1000 gallon tank, and as you can see it looks quite different. I'm actually doing a water change because we are talking about adding wood. So let me show you what I got. So this right here is probably the main piece. So this is a really nice example of, I think it's called manzanita wood, and it's already dry blasted, I think it's called, or sand blasted, basically making it safe for aquarium use. And then we have this long piece here, and then we also have another piece here, very nice. And then we have a couple of pieces in the back. And the reason why I'm combining this with a water change is because these pieces of wood will initially float in the water, so I cannot just dump them in and then have them and then aquascape the tank. So basically I'm forced to wait a couple of weeks, and the reason why these pieces are so dark is because they have been floating in the water for a couple of weeks, and they are almost about to sink. And these smaller pieces in the back here, they are fully, submerged now. They float to the, they sink to the bottom. But with these pieces here, because they are not, sinking to the bottom right now, the only way for me to aquascape this tank is when it's half empty. So I'm combining this rescape with a water change. And even then, when I fill up the tank, it's possible that, some of the wood will rearrange itself, but eventually it will, nicely settle in. And yeah, so I think this look is going to be a little bit better than what I had before, because what I had before was basically the coral inserts that got always moved a little bit because of this eel, and the other green moray always getting into scuffles with one another. And then these three pieces of fake coral, they don't lock in completely, so they're basically just standing next to each other. And then if there's some big movement in the tank, then they get moved and tipped over, and then it scratches the acrylic. So I had to unfortunately stop using that until I maybe have a different type of aquarium in the future. Maybe if I ever have no more eels or only smaller eels, I can probably reintroduce these fake corals. But yeah, in the intro I mentioned I got some new fish, so let me show you what I got. So these are California Cortez rays. So this is a baby, very small, next to my hand. You can see, a pretty small animal. And then what else? We have two bigger ones. They're buried in the sand. And because I wanted to get rays, I had to add sand. So this is why this tank looks a lot different now, going back to sand. Before, the reason why I didn't like sand is because I had also a bunch of live rock in here. There was just too much dirt accumulating at the bottom. Ammonia being a heavy gas, it tends to settle in the bottom, and then the eels are at the bottom, so they get more exposed to that. But what I'm doing with this wood, basically I'm going to be stacking it lengthwise. And even this piece, it looks very nice laying on the side. But I decided to probably put it up like this or down. I'm not sure. If I put it down, I'm worried that these smaller branches will all break off, even though technically it will float in the water or be less heavy in the water. But whenever I do a water change, the pressure will increase and these end pieces may crack. So I'm thinking about maybe putting it upside to have some hiding at the top for the angelfish and whatever smaller fish I have. And then these will basically be just like they're standing now, but probably next to each other. And yeah, so because I'm doing this kind of aquascape, I need to have a very nice open swimming space at the bottom for the rays. And also the shark that I have back there, the white spotted bamboo shark. and the eels, they will, you know, snake their way through the wood, no problem. So the wood is also not abrasive. It's very soft. You know, it's not going to scrape anything. The eels will not scrape each other against the wood. So yeah, so I will add a little bit more sand. I will adjust the wave maker so I don't have this, you know, big open area at the center of the tank. You know, play with the float a little bit, with the flow a little bit. But this wood will also obstruct the flow, so it will cause a little bit less turbulence of water in this tank. So yeah, and then after that, I think I'm pretty much set for now. But I keep saying that, you know. But I think this time with the wood, it's a lot safer. So the problem with wood, some people say, is it will make the water soft. So it will lower the pH, and as you know, in salt water, you want pH to be, you know, like 8.1 to 8.3. So I don't think this will be a problem because I have a really big skimmer here, a reef octopus, which pumps a lot of oxygen into the water, which will raise the pH. And other people say that this wood will start to make the water go brown. But as you can see, I do 50% water changes, which is 500 gallons, and I do this every 2 weeks. So whatever discoloration is happening is going to get, you know, taken care of pretty quickly. So yeah, let me add the additional sand in here. I have 2 more bags. This is white pool filter sand, by the way. Very nice and economical way of getting sand in the water. Very fine sand, which is perfect for stingrays. And the shark actually really likes the sand as well. So when I was putting this in a couple weeks back, he usually hides in the pipe while I'm working in here, just like the eels, but he actually came out because he was excited to be, you know, moving, to have his whiskers touch some sand for the first time, and not just this rough, you know, 3D underground that I had in here. So yeah, let me do some scaping and then slowly fill up this tank, and then take a closer look at the eels and the stingrays and the angels, and then I think we're going to have a nice tank, and yeah, I will get started. Okay, it's been a couple of days since I put the wood into the tank, and yeah, let me tell you, it's not easy to put this much wood into a tank like this, and also make sure that it doesn't cover up, you know, most of the openings in the pipe system, and also making sure that the bottom is nice and wide open for the stingrays and the white-spotted bamboo shark all the way in the back. So yeah, but it did work out, and also it wasn't easy to make sure that the flow of the water is not obstructed too much, especially for keeping the bottom clean. I mean, I do see more dirt now accumulating at the bottom, but it's not avoidable at this point. So eventually this wood will sink to the ground and will provide a little bit more hiding at the bottom and a little bit more open space at the top. But so far the eels really like it. And yeah, they slowly get used to it. They use the wood to hide as well, not only the angelfish and the other smaller fish. And yeah, it's something new for the eels. I think it's pretty nice to keep changing things, maybe not as drastic that the eels would go on a hunger strike, but just to keep things interesting for them, because they do like to snake through all this wood. So I always thought, you know, they like the most open swimming space as possible, but not necessarily. They like some in the bottom, some at the very top, and some in between. But it doesn't have to be all wide open. So, and I think it looks, you know, more interesting this way too. It hides the pipe system a little bit better than the fake coral that I had before. And yeah, so I'm going to be putting some food in. Only a little bit worried about my viper moray that you see underneath the green moray. That eel hasn't eaten since I put in the fake coral, so it's been like 2 or 3 months now. So this is an eel that I usually have to hand feed, but yeah, I've seen the viper moray come out at night, but you know, most of the food is already gone at that time, so there's not much for him to eat. But I will put some food in now, and hopefully the eels will come out, and as well as the stingrays. Those stingrays are really interesting animals. So when I put some food in, you will see that they are very, very active, and they swim a lot in the open space as well. So I always thought that they will stay mostly at the bottom And I basically need to have fish for the bottom only, center only, and the top only. But these stingrays, they constantly swim all around the tank. They're very open swimmers, which is really cool. And it makes sense because in the wild, they travel, you know, hundreds of miles or thousands of miles and in big groups. So I notice, you know, sometimes at the pet store when they have all these stingrays in small holding tanks that they sometimes start to swim in a loop because they're just trying to swim. And I noticed with mine that they sometimes just hover around this area in front of this wave maker to swim against the wave maker. And that's pretty cool. So I may need to increase the waves to make them more happy. All right, I just put in some food. And what I'm feeding today is spiny gobies. I'm feeding some, what else? Some clam meat. And I'm also feeding some smaller pieces of shrimp for the stingrays. Because I did notice that they need to feed, you know, pieces that are exactly right for them. And let's see, the eel's a little bit hyper. So I have to make sure he doesn't mistake any of the stingrays as food. But yeah, no problems so far. Everyone likes to eat in this tank. I have no problems except for the viper moray who's still on a hunger strike. But everyone else, you know, stingrays, as soon as they smell food in the water, you know, they go crazy immediately. And the wave makers just started to come on. I give them a little bit of a pause in this tank because I don't want too much current all the time. So now that the wave makers have come on, you can see food, you know, distributed a little bit more. And yeah, very active tank when food is in the water, and it looks like this tank has way too many fish when it's feeding time. And then when it's not feeding time and most are hiding, it looks empty. So that's why I got the angelfish to help with that, and the stingrays as well. And the stingrays will make sure that, you know, the bottom gets stays mostly clean. I usually use invertebrates for that, but I did lower the salinity on this tank to 1.020, which is a little bit too low for invertebrates like lobsters or, you know, horseshoe crabs or something like that. I did that mainly to save money on salt because the price of salt was going up really high. But the price has come down recently, so I may increase the salinity slowly and, you know, and then maybe introduce some invertebrates. But I'm not sure now with the stingrays in the tank. Probably don't need this. Maybe get one more stingray, a nice big female. Because the fish store where I bought them from, they have like 15 of them in the tank that looks like a 40-gallon breeder. It's really sad to see that. But yeah, if I can rescue maybe one or two more even, that would be really nice. So we'll see. And yeah. Everything looks good here. I may have to put some more food because the eels are very aggressive. So I just added some more. Looks like the eels were just really starving, and usually I don't wait as long as I waited this time to feed them. But I wanted them to be a little bit hungry for this video. But yeah, you have to do it exactly right, otherwise the feeding frenzy is getting a little bit too wild. And which is also, you know, a reason why I have to do 500-gallon water changes every 2 weeks, which, you know, is very expensive when it comes to the salt. You spend probably $200 in salt on every water change. So yeah, that was the reason behind, you know, lowering the salinity a little bit. But yeah, doesn't seem to bother the eels at all. They're growing nice and fast. Seem to be really loving this clam meat. These are razor clams. And the spiny gobies are an absolute favorite, have always been favorites for my eels because of the shape. They're very easy to enrich with vitamins. You just use a syringe and inject vitamins through the mouth straight onto the feeder fish. And this is the easiest way to get vitamins into your eels' bodies. And yeah, stingrays don't seem to be bothered at all by these big eels. They were not with eels in the fish store, only by themselves, all in one small tank. So it's nice to see that they get along right away. And yeah, some people say eels like the viper moray or the dragon moray are not compatible with stingrays. And I do have a viper moray in here, but he's always up at the top, rarely ever comes out at, you know, towards the bottom or out swimming. So I don't anticipate any problems whatsoever. And There's a lot of myths when it comes to eel keeping, which is why I document a lot of my fish keeping. For example, people say you cannot have 2 green morays in the same tank. You cannot have a tessellata with a green or a giant with any moray. So all of that is not true when you watch my videos. So they say you cannot have queen angels or angels in general with sharks or rays because they nip at the eyes. That has not happened. I had this problem with the tang that was nipping the eyes at my gray bamboo shark that got really big. But yeah, I cannot confirm that in my tank. So maybe this will change later, hopefully not. But yeah, so everything looks good. I will probably film an update when I have to make a little bit of a change in this tank with the wood once it starts to sink, because I need to make sure that the bottom is still nice and available for the stingrays and doesn't get too crowded, and that the eels can maneuver around it. And also notice a lot of these branches have some very sharp edges, so I hope that the water will eventually soften them. And yeah, but I don't see any scrapes on them, so everything looks to be fine. So yeah, let me know what you think. I think this is a nice look, you know, a mangrove look, kind of a different look. And maybe once some algae grows on the wood, that will also make it look a little bit nicer, you know, more like a moss kind of a algae, not hair algae. So yeah, so thank you again. I hope you like this update, and we'll let you know if anything changes. And until then, have a good day.